The Celtics begin the quest for banner 18 tonight against the Knicks, and joining us to talk about that once again on this program on the Harbor One hotline, it is the owner of the Boston Celtics, Wyc Grousbeck. Hey, Wyc, welcome back.
Yo, man, is it true I'm now on the number one rated morning show in Boston?
Well, Wyc, we had a very good summer, and we've had our wins. We've had our second places. We are if you would continue to come on all season, I think we could get to number one. So would you?
We could get and maybe in like Worcester, where I was born. Other than that, I don't know. But
I think it'll help. Listen,
Tatum would definitely help if you can get him to come on.
Point.
Tatum,
yeah. Wiggy has several requests. I didn't think the Tatum interview was going to be number one. I thought it was going to be a jersey.
I'll take Tatum every week. That's my guy. You already know.
Well,
I'm just waiting for this thank you note for the playoff tickets, Wiggy. So,
man, I appreciate it. I told you thank you at the end of the game. It didn't go as we planned, but I was there.
All right, listen, we're right back into it. It's like we never had an off season. This is great.
Yeah. Well, how soon after that Game 7 loss did you to the Heat? Did you start to think about? Did you guys all start to think about sort of remaking this team or making some changes?
Yeah, that's right. I sat there probably the whole second half of that game, starting to think about it, and then I took 2 days to let everything settle down, and then went and met with Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla, and we formulated a plan to. I just said, we're not bringing back the same team. It's been 2 seasons in a row of really good play, but inconsistencies, and they showed in the finals 2 years ago, and then in the semifinals, the conference finals last year. And it just felt inconsistent. And I said, I just want to change the mix so that there's just a freshness of a fresh approach, And so we made some changes this summer, and the reports out of camp and the practices that I've seen, there is a real connection between the guys. There is a real energy, and there's a commitment to the word that they're using is mindfulness, but also sacrifice. And that would be that, someone's individual scoring. You might not score 30, you might score 24, but you'll have a bunch of assists, and the team might be more likely to win the game, that kind of idea.
Is it difficult? I imagine it is difficult, but when you have a guy like Marcus Smart who had a lot of passion for the city and the team, is it difficult to part ways with a guy like that?
Absolutely. In fact, we really haven't parted ways in some sense. I mean, Amelia and I went out to his wedding just a few weeks ago, and along with a whole bunch of other Celtics people, players mostly, and we probably had 8 or 9 people from the Celtics out at Marcus's wedding, and it was just a really warm reunion. And so the personal side of this is still there with Marcus and other former players. I mean, he's a special guy, and he's missed, and we're moving on, but we wish him the best in Memphis.
Wyc, I think the toughest thing about when you have a team like you guys assembled with all the talent is you talked about sacrifice. But it seems like that these guys are all buying into that and making sure that they understand that some guys are going to have to sacrifice their roles. Was that something that you felt like you had to be a big voice in? Is it something Mazzulla, or is it something like just basically the personalities of these players have been making them willing to buy into that sacrifice?
Yeah, no, I'm not there coaching or trying to be a coach. I'm there to be supportive and to show authentic, win the banner or die trying kind of mentality from the ownership side. But I'm not trying to coach. That would be Joe, and that would be the players individually coming up with it and talking to each other about it. And then the final piece here is that Joe has invited back all the former Celtics. And so they've had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Rajon Rondo, just to name 3 from the 2008 team who have been around. Rondo was around just for the last 5 or 6 days here. And those guys learned that from Doc. And remember, he took the guys out on the duck boat before the season and said, if you all sacrifice, basically, you can win this thing, and we can be back in these duck boats when it counts. And so that concept is coming from the championship alumni and from Joe and from the players themselves. That's what I would say.
Wyc, in the same wheelhouse as buying in, Jason Tatum was talking about how Missoula's made practice, I think he said, hard as S, and talking about how the players have all bought into him. Was there a lack of buy-in last season in your mind? And if so, where did that come from?
I'm gonna say, just looking at the season, we had, if we hadn't had one game where we rested some guys in Milwaukee and lost in Milwaukee, we would have had the best record in the league. We were one game away, and then we got further than Milwaukee did, and we were one game away from the finals. So I think Joe for a large part of the year had us at the best record in the league, and we changed him from interim to permanent coach. And anyway, so I look back at last year not as a failure of coaching or a failure of anything else. I just thought we got inconsistent at the end. I think there's been buy-in, but part of mixing it up, which we did deliberately over the summer, just make some changes, bring in Porzingis, bring in Holiday as an example, mixing it up and seeing what happens. There's just a freshness and electricity around the practice facility that does feel actually a little bit different.
I love the Porzingis acquisition. I think he's going to be spectacular. I loved him when he was with the Knicks. But I did bet on Tatum to win the MVP. What have you seen from him now where he's kind of taking more of that leadership kind of mantle on? What has he kind of shown you throughout the offseason and throughout camp on him taking that next step to hopefully not just for him, but for me winning the MVP this year as well as a championship?
Well, yeah, if there's a lot of sacrificing going on, maybe those numbers, decline a bit. Sorry about the bet, but I think I would bet on the Banner futures and see if we get there, hopefully. But I'm not sure in the practices and the scrimmages. I don't think it's so much that leadership is coming through. I think that starts tonight down in Madison Square Garden. That's where you can really see how a team is getting bailed out when things get stagnant or, who's stepping up. But so I haven't really seen necessarily or been evaluating leadership during camp. I've just been evaluating attitudes and connectedness and like smiles and like hard work. And I'm seeing all of that. I know it sounds like a simple answer, but it's just the truth. There's good stuff going on. Now, listen, every training camp in the NBA, there are feelings like this. Everybody's undefeated right now. We have to actually not just talk about it, but go out and do it. And it starts tonight at 7 p.m.
Wyc, giving Jaylen Brown that supermax over the summer, do you think it's difficult for a guy like that who becomes, one of the richest contracts in NBA history to sacrifice maybe on the court when it comes to a season? Or from what you've seen from Jaylen Brown, he's just all team mentality and wanting to win a championship?
Well, I'd rather have him answer the questions, and not be speaking for Jaylen. But my impression of Jaylen is there is a lot of excitement and responsibility felt, but commitment. And I know there's a lot of happy talk this morning. That's what you're getting, but it's authentic. That's how I feel. This isn't a commercial. It's just what's really happening in my mind, or what I see. And so Jaylen threw a birthday party the other night, and it was black tie, and lots of people came, and he was just, and he had the whole place decorated. It could have been decorated in any color and any scheme. He rented out a venue in Boston, and he had it completely green and white. He had Celtics logos everywhere. I mean, there's just an enthusiasm, and Jaylen is a big part of it. So, talk. Let's win the game tonight and go from there. But there's a lot of talk, but I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Wyc, I believe the player participation rule goes into effect with this season, which essentially is that you have to have at least one star player that's playing in these games. Were you somebody who was in favor of that? Yeah,
it was discussed around on the committee that I'm on that handles this kind of stuff, and we voted for it at the Celtics. I mean, I think the idea is that load management has taken on a big, it's a big name now, or a big, a big thing. And we have some doctors and scientists who looked at the data and said it doesn't really actually make any difference. And the TV partners are saying, and the fans, if you have a really hot team come into town with a couple of stars, and then all the or 3 stars, and then all the stars are resting that night. When your fans, the fans on the road, have sort of saved up for that one game to see the stars play, it's just kind of disappointing. So that's the idea. It really came from the league office. It didn't come from the Celtics, but we supported it.
And how do you feel about LeBron James eating a meal on the bench mid-game? Would that be something that you would discourage?
I'm not going to comment on anybody else's players except to say that LeBron. I've been in the league a long time, and LeBron has been like the pillar of the league for a long time, and we've had a lot of great success in the league. So I can't say I'm a LeBron fan. I'm going to say that he's an opposing player on the particular team that is our nemesis, the Lakers. But other than that, all good wishes to LeBron.
Wyc, there's something ironic about Greg complaining about a guy eating courtside at an NBA game.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to let that go. Next time he sits with me, I'm going to get him one of those hats with the beer, the beer on each side. And
Believe me, you don't need to get him one. He's got a couple. So Wyc, curious about the Jeff Van Gundy hiring, the timing of it, and was that something you came up with? Was that a Brad Stevens hire? Can you help us understand the Jeff Van Gundy hiring?
Yeah, you guys are so great. Like Wyc, did you hire Jeff Van Gundy? Did you tell these guys to sacrifice? It's like, no, I'm not Doc Rivers. I'm not Brad Stevens, but not even close. But Jeff, I know. Brad told me Brad and Joe said that they wanted to bring in Jeff as a consultant, and what did I think about it? And I said, I'm impressed. I've always actually liked the guy. I've gotten to know him a bit, and he seems very, very smart. But that's their decision. That's not my decision. If those two coaches, Brad is a former coach and Joe is a current coach, want to bring in Jeff Van Gundy, it's fine with me. And he's added a lot, is what I've been told already.
Wyc, now I know like you said, it's been a lot of positive things, but like a lot of us green teamers here, the expectations this year, in my opinion, based on this roster and this team and the players that are on this team, are championship or bust. How do you feel as the owner who sees this roster being put together and the talent that you have? Is that the same type of feeling that you have that the rest of us green teamers have?
Well, it's not the or bust part because I don't think it's a one and done. Like it's now or never. And so I said in another press conference earlier, I said, I think we might have like a 6-year run here. I just pulled that number out of the air. But, our two really marquee players, now we have 4 or 5 or 6 really top players. I mean, we got a top 6 that's unbelievable. But Jason and Jaylen are in their mid-20s. So, and Jaylen just re-upped for a long contract, and we have the opportunity to talk to Jason next summer and hopefully extend him. And having them in their mid-20s means that I'm looking at this as a period where we can be good every single year, just starting with those two guys and then adding in, retaining others around them. So I really don't – I mean, I'll be so disappointed if we don't, really do well this year and give it a good try, give it a good fight. I mean, but I don't think it's now or never. I think we're set up with young guys. Mm-hmm. Back in 2008, those guys all came in and they were in their 30s already. And, that's old for NBA players getting older. These guys are in their mid-20s for the most part on this team. And, Porzingis is 28. Holiday's a little bit older. But Derek White is in his 20s. So Al and Holiday out of the 6 are the 2 older ones. But, we've got 4 other guys that are all young, under 30. So, and I want to see this team for a bunch of years.
Well, Wyc, we can't wait to get it underway this evening, and we thank you as always for taking.
Just a quick interruption, Wyc. Considering Greg's absence and his sort of in and out nature on the court last playoff run, is he officially a jinx, or is that?
No, I'm not a jinx. No, you heard Wyc say next time you're seated courtside with me.
Okay.
I don't think I was a jinx.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to the Suffolk University graduation together, Greg. No, listen, you're invited. You're invited. You're not a jinx, and let's see if we can put all that to rest.
Don't fall into Curtis's trap. All right, it's awesome that you join us, and we are very excited.
Let's go.
We will look forward to talking to you here and there throughout the season with Grousbeck.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All
Bye.
right.